A man who lives right here in Mesa County is a New York Times best-selling author. Gerald Blaine is a retired Secret Service agent with some incredible stories. Our Timber Schumann interviewed Mr. Blaine, who takes you through his experience with the JFK assassination.
I do not shrink from this responsibility. I welcome it.
When President Kennedy died, the world turned upside down. It was ridiculous to try to protect the president with the resources we had. Unless we speak up, all the agents that were involved and dedicated to Kennedy's protection are going to be a blacklist in history. And I wrote the Kennedy detail.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
My name is Jerry Blaine. I moved to Grand Junction 20 years ago. I went to school over in Inglewood High School and the University of Colorado, and I was a Korean War veteran.
Jerry has lived several different lives, many of them through the government and through the Secret Service.
Eisenhower, Kennedy, and Johnson were the primary ones that I worked with.
Greg Hamilton created an impressive local law catalog housed at Hamilton Library. He invited Jerry here this week to share stories detailing his life and his role during a critical moment in U.S. history.
I met him at our church, and he's here to be interviewed, and we have a special interview on our big screen tonight that was done about 2 years ago, about 30 minutes long.
I was very careful in the Kennedy detail to write the facts and do research.
Jerry guarded the president throughout his entire presidency, both by his side and venturing ahead to clear the way. He set up a route for Kennedy's car in Dallas, which Jerry tells me Kennedy changed at the last minute and requested a convertible. Jerry was en route to Kennedy's next planned tour when an assassin fired on and killed the president. Decades later, he decided to put the trauma into words. His book, The Kennedy Detail, shares what he and other Secret Servicemen experienced.
Our intent was to give the readers an idea of what President Kennedy was like and what were the events leading up to the assassination, and tearing down the theories that people were introducing.
Now for part 2 of this interview with Mr. Blaine, tune in tonight. Now, Colorado, yesterday we featured part 1 of our chat with a New York Times best-selling author based right here in Mesa County. Gerald Blaine is a retired Secret Service agent with some incredible stories. This morning, our Timber Schumann continues his interview with Mr. Blaine, who takes you through his experience with the JFK assassination, which is covered in his book, The Kennedy Detail.
Our intent was to give the readers an idea of what President Kennedy was like and what were the events leading up to the assassination, and tearing down the theories that people were introducing.
One theory, the magic bullet. Oftentimes, the number of shots fired and from where varies depending on who you ask. Jerry tells me 3 shots were fired, all from Oswald on the 6th floor of the book depository, which would rule out another theory, the grassy knoll. He says 3 workers on the 5th floor heard it all through the ceiling.
And when Oswald fired the first shot, they heard the shot, felt stuff fall on their head, and then dropped to the floor, and then they heard the casing hit the floor. Then came the second shot, the same sequence, and the third shot, the same sequence.
The first bullet, to Jerry's account, hit Kennedy in the back of the neck. The second shot hit Governor Conley, and the third shot hit the side of Kennedy's head. Jerry says it was impossible to clear every room around the block with so few people assigned to the detail.
We only had about 48 people on the White House detail. Protecting the president at any one time were only 5 agents.
Nowadays, 30 to 40 people guard the president at all times, making it much less likely this fragment of history would repeat itself. But today, the challenges are greater.
And now, those terrors are worse than ever.
The state of today's world gave Jerry, now 92, the motivation to write a new book called The Silent Generation Speaks.
It includes the corruption of some of our politicians and to look at our country as a constitutional republic.
Just the latest chapter in an adventure-filled life well lived. For KREX Channel 5, I'm Timber Schumann.
I think I'm going to have them write on the back end of the president's car because we just don't have the manpower to do anything else but that. All of a sudden I hear over the radio, the president wants the Ivy League charlatans to fall back to the follow-up car.
Gerald Blaine told Vince Palomera that he heard this remark from the guys, not over his radio. He told Vince Palomera that President Kennedy never interfered with their actions at all. Floyd Boring, the agent you see in the passenger seat of the limousine next to the driver Bill Greer, that's Floyd Boring, he was Assistant Special Agent in charge. He told Vince Palomera that this was not true. JFK was a very nice man, never interfered with their actions at all. He never ordered them off the back of the car. I specifically asked him about the Ivy League charlatans remark. It's in William Manchester's book. Floyd Boring adamantly denied this to me twice. He also sent me a letter saying that President Kennedy was very cooperative. The same thing he told the JFK Library in 1976. Don Lawton, the agent you're seeing about to get on the back of the car there, told me that, who knows, you can hindsight yourself to death. If they would have left guys in the back of the car, Special Agent in Charge Jerry Bain and a slew of other agents told me that President Kennedy never ordered the agents off the back of the car. Gerald Blaine, author of the Kennedy Detail, told me the same thing until he realized, uh-oh, we got to cover our behinds.
And he politely told everybody, we're starting the campaign now, and the people are my asset. Said I couldn't get elected dog catcher.
Blaine took that from Floyd Boring's JFK Library oral history in a different context that was not related to the agents being on the back of the car, which is totally untrue. See the gentleman next to JFK there? That is Congressman Sam Gibbons. He told me the agents were on the back of the car the entire time. He heard no presidential order to remove the agents from the back of the car. President Kennedy had back braces and a very bad back. He couldn't have turned around to see the agents. He wouldn't have cared one way or the other. And the agents were actually back far enough, they weren't an issue anyway.
If I didn't get out and greet the public, we all of a sudden understood, but it left a firm command to stay off the back of the car.
That left a firm command to stay off the back of the car? Bull. Again, Gerald Blaine in 2004 told me that President Kennedy never interfered with their actions. In 2005, when I told him, where did the Ivy League charlatans comment come from? He said, it came from the guys. I can't remember who told me. I can't remember. Now he's saying he heard loud and clear over his walkie-talkie. Yet Floyd Boring told me it's not true. Gerald Blaine was interviewed by William Manchester, something he is now denying. I feel strongly that Gerald Blaine is the source. It's in Manchester's book of this Ivy League charlatans mythology. President Kennedy never ordered the agents off the back of the car.
Two crucial decisions are made that affect the president's security.
It had been raining in Texas, and they chose to remove the bubble from the president's car. Previous to that, they had the bubble on the car, but it was a very bright, sunny day.
In all due respect to the Newmans, good people who believe shots came from the front, directly behind them on the grassy knoll. The they Bill Newman is referring to, they were the Secret Service. This was a Secret Service decision, as Agent Sam Kinney told me.
The president is also keen to give the crowds the best view possible, so asks the Secret Service agents not to stand on the back of the car.
Basically, he didn't want to look like he was overprotected. So we had a shortage of agents, and then he emphasized it that he didn't want agents on the back of the car.
This is total bull. Gerald Blaine spotting this total mythology, this total false crap. There's no other way to put it. Not only did Gerald Blaine told me twice in 2004 and 2005 that President Kennedy never interfered with their actions at all, many of his colleagues, including several way above him in rank, the number 1 agent, Gerald Blaine, the number 2 agent, Floyd Boring, one of the 3 shift leaders, Art Godfrey, dozens of others, and several important White House aides, including Dave Powers, all told me that President Kennedy did not order the agents off the back of the car. Dave Powers, arguably JFK's best friend since 1946, wrote to me in a letter saying that the president never had to order the agents off the car. The list goes on and on. See my first book, Survivor's Guilt, and also see my third book, The Not So Secret Service. It's a shame that Gerald Blaine is still spreading these lies.